So basically, the other time we talked about the Git, we introduced Git, and we talked about the Git commands. We learned about the Git init, where you want to initialize an empty repository. Later, we talked on how you can stage um, some files. For example, you can stage some files with the Git add, and then to save, we usually use the Git commit. We learned about that. We also talked about on how we talked about the branching, how to create a branch, how to change branches, and also how to merge code to different branches. So today we are going to mainly focus on the Git because Git, like a GitHub, is now like a cloud. Like we talked about the repositories, but now on the local machine. But now we want to talk about Git, but now we are pushing or maybe interacting on a cloud platform. Now GitHub is like a cloud where you can store now your a project, and then perhaps if you want to clone it on another computer, you can do it without any issues. And this one can help you, like for example, if your computer crash, you can easily retrieve your code. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to do a project, and also perhaps some, it is your brain basically. So to lose something like that is not, it's not good. So we want to talk about the GitHub, which is now like the cloud where we can store our repositories. So how do you create an account on the GitHub? On GitHub. So you just search for me, I already have an account. Let me try to use a different browser and see if I'll be able to do that. So search for github.com. Search for github.com. I'll share with you the link there at the QA. Let me share. Just search for the github.com. Github.com. And then what you do, if you do not have an account, you can click on the sign up. You can click on the sign up, and then here you are going to add in, like to enter your email that you want to use it for, to associate that email with the GitHub that you want to create. For me, I already have an account. Let me try to see if I'll be able to create another one. So after you've entered your email, then you can click on the continue. Then here you can create your password. And then next, you enter your username. For example, okay, let me say name. Okay, so enter your preferred username, and then I click on the continue, and then here you're going to, if you want to get like those emails from these guys, you can check this one, and then you can click on the continue. So thereafter, you have to verify your account. So when you click on the verify, they'll give you a challenge to show that it's a human. Nowadays, we have a lot of AI stuffs. So to prove that you're human, you'll have to undertake this challenge to show that you're not creating a spam account. It's not about creating an account. So this part, they want me to point this object to the direction of this finger. So I think it's pointing in the other direction, this direction. And then if it's correct, I'll be allowed to go to the next step where I will have to, let me try to see if I'll be able to get the code, my email. Seems I can't get the code. I don't know what's the problem, but so that's the process on how you can create an account. Perhaps you'll have to add in the second factor authentication. I believe by now, you're able to create any account on any website. That's the assumption. You have ever created an account somewhere. So it's just a similar process where you can, for example, if you have a Twitter account, Facebook account, so the process is just similar. This is a trusted platform. You can provide your credentials here, and then it's a secured platform. So don't worry. So go and create an account with the sign up. And then if you have an account, you can sign in. Like for me, I already have an account. I'm going to just sign in. So I'm going to say github.com now to my username. And then I saw this the interface. Let me see if I'll be able to. Yeah, so basically this is the profile. Like this is how your page will look like, or maybe the interface. No, if you don't have any repository, do not have this page, this screen here, but you'll have something similar to this. And then the repository will be listed here, the repositories. Where you can have the repository which are, for example, private or maybe public. You'll see all the repositories there. And then, organizations you've created, it will be listed here, and, other things. So go and try to create a new account, like a GitHub account, such that we may be able to push now the codes from our local environment out to the cloud. So, how do you now create a repository from the local environment now to push it on the server on the internet via this GitHub account? So let's go to the VS Code. You can see the screen, but I didn't confirm. You can see the screen, my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, allow me to clear my VS Code. We also talked about the VS Code we introduced. I took you through the Visual Studio Code. So I'm not going to focus on that at the moment. So I want us to create here a new folder somewhere, perhaps at the desktop. Okay, let me create it at the somewhere where I can easily remember. Perhaps music, it doesn't have a lot of stuff. So let me create here a new folder. Git and GitHub. And in case you have a question, you just ask me. You will just ask me. So Git and GitHub. And the folder is just a folder that I've created. It doesn't have anything. Remember, another way is to just create a folder. For example, it was on music. You can just create here a new folder. And then what you do, you go to your VS Code. And then you click on open folder. And then you look where you had created. Then you're going to select. It will be listed there. So there are several ways on how you can do that. Alternatively, if you want to open that directory where we have the folder, like if you want to open Visual Studio Code from that directory to VS Code, you can just cd to that direction and then type their code and then a period. So when you're adding period at the end, it means that it's going to open Visual Studio Code, but with this current directory here. So when you hit enter, then it's going to open VS Code with this folder here. So there are several ways on how you can open, that folder, like your root directory for your project. So now in this one, I want us to create some new files, like a quick recap on what we did the other time. So let me create here a new file, like HTML file. I want to create here an index HTML file. Then perhaps let me just type there, for example, hello world. Produce paragraph. Hello there. Hello there. And then another CSS file. Okay, CSS file. So main dot CSS. And then let me just create anything there, or a perhaps body. I will not link to even this CSS here to my HTML. HTML is just a simple markup language for creating structures of web pages, and then a CSS it is to style. Though we now have a powerful tools, or maybe powerful frameworks and that we can use, for example, to styles, like for example, Tailwind CSS, or perhaps Bootstrap and other things. But now CSS is a very similar styling language. So background color, whichever color. So this is just my simple code, and I want to open now the embedded terminal. I'm going to use the embedded terminal, or maybe command line tool interface on this VS Code. It usually comes with the like it also depends on how you install Git. You need to give that Git permission. There was that checkbox. If you watch the previous part, we had that part where you could check a box so that you can allow other third parties to use to integrate like Git bash. So in that case, you'll be able to see when you go to the terminal, you'll be able to create a new terminal. Like for example, on this VS, we'll be able now to see the Git bash. We have the Git bash here. So the first thing you want to do, let's do a quick recap on what we did the other time. The first thing is to initialize now your repository. To initialize, like for example, I used an example the other time. Like let's say you have a car, you want to drive it. So you'll begin by first turning the car on. So that's just to turning the car on, but you're not doing anything. So the same applies here. Is just like when you initialize, you're just setting like Git to be active here. When you use the Git init, is to initialize now this repository Git init, so that Git may work well here. Without initializing this repository, you'll not be able to write those like Git commands, like to track files and stuff like that. Then the next thing we saw that the next thing is to track the files, to add the files so that Git may track it. And then to the command to do that is Git add, then add the file name. For example, index.html. Then Git is going to track this file here. You can see now the status has changed here to A. Remember, we have now Git lens here, the extension. We installed the extension called Git lens. Git lens, which is Git lens, which usually provide these highlights, and also it can display, for example, if a file is tracked on, it gives you like those suggestions. So it is Git lens. Go to the extension, install Git lens, and then you'll be able to see many other things. It will tell you, for example, which file is tracked, which one is not tracked. Like you can see, this one is untracked U, untracked. This one is added, which means it is tracked, and other things. So this is one way to add in the files. But assuming that you have a lot of files, you won't want to do, for example, git add index.html, main.css, JavaScript, Dart, and many other languages. So in that case, if you have a lot of languages, you can just use like many other files. You can just use git add, then a period at the end is going to add all the files in that directory where the git is initialized. Then you can see now it is now tracking everything. But later we'll talk about the git ignore, such that, for example, if you want some specific files not to be tracked by default, like us, sometimes you want to just do everything at a go, like for example, git add, then to track every file instead of going one by one. But at one point you might have files which are sensitive. You don't want to share it to make it an open source, like people to see it. So we'll talk about the git ignore later. And then after that, what you do is to commit now the changes. So this one, you are just tracking the files, but it's not saved. It's not like a track such that you can revert back to the previous state or the previous changes or a commit. So basically now to save it so that you can retrieve later that state, you can use the git commit. Git commit, and then a -m, then at the commit message or at the save message. For example, first commit. Now first commit. So this is just a quick recap on what we did the other time. First commit. Then now you can see now the file is no longer displaying that U or a. So it means that now the files are tracked. So if you want to see the status, you can do the git status. Status like the state of your files. If it's tracked or not, you can always do git status. So git, git status. So git status, it will tell you that git status, it will tell you the status at the moment it's saved. So let me try to modify my code. So hello world, hello world. If you're using these, these tools, this extension, it will notify you quickly there that, for example, the file is modified or stuff like that. Let me clear. Mhm. Clear. So let's do again the git status. So you can see now it's telling me that this file was modified, the index.html. You can see it's telling me that I modify index.html. So anytime I do that, I need to track that change. So by doing the git, remember when you do git, like when you clear your command line interface, it does not mean that you are deleting. It's not deleting. Basically, it's just like a clearing your workspace, but it's still in the history. So now, for example, for me, when I want to get the previous command that I had written, I can just use the arrow keys on my keyboard that points upward to retrieve the previous written commands. When I use the up arrow key, it's going to retrieve the previous written command. Then the down arrow key is going to retrieve the latest um, commands which are written. So in this case, I want to add the files to track those changes. And then I can commit the changes. Perhaps I can say, for example, second commit or whichever name you wish. But I always make sure that I use something descriptive so that you can know which change was made at this commit. So second commit. Then you can see now the file is tracked. So basically, you can always use the git status to check the status of the files, which files are tracked, which files are modified, and so forth. And then we also talked about the branches, how to create the branch. First of all, if you want to list the branches that are there, you can just use the git branch, and then it's going to list the branches there. Like you can see at the moment, it is just main. Master, sorry, it's not main. So if I want to create another branch, perhaps let's call it front end. You can just say git branch and then a branch name, for example, for front end. And then when you do again the git branch, it's going to list the branch. So if I want to switch to this branch, you can always do the git checkout, and then the branch name, for example, front end. So now you can see now it has switched to front end. So when you do the git branch, it's going to list front end as an active branch, And for example, if you want to create a branch and also at the same time switch to it, you can do the git checkout, then -b, to show that it's a new branch, and then the branch name you could give it, for example, a test. Let me call it test. So this one is going to create a new branch, and then at the same time, it's going to switch to that branch. So you can see now at that branch, it has created a new branch, and then at the same time, it has switched to that branch. So in this branch, let me try to modify, for example, hello there 3. Okay, let me add in several. So you can see now on this one, let me first of all track, add the files so that it can be tracked. Then let me commit. And this one I can simply say, for example, a test branch, modified, test branch modified, test branch modified. So when I commit here, let me clear. So you can see now on the test branch, it has this code. It has how many lines of code? 1, 2, 3 on the hello. 1, 2, 3, 4. But now when I switch back to, for example, when I do the git checkout, let me just type git checkout, and then a branch name. For example, if it's master, you can see it doesn't have those 4 code. When you switch to master, it doesn't have those code. Like for example, when I switch back to test, you can see we have made the changes to the test, not the master. So when you switch back to test, you'll see now it has 4 codes. So basically the branching will help. Like for example, if you have a company, it has the live code for production that it's running. For example, an application, maybe a website, or something like that. So you don't want to always push codes to the main branch because it can interfere with the entire system. So you want to push the codes on your branch, and then you will test, like you have a team who will test your code very well, or maybe you yourself test the code very well, and make sure that everything is fine. You have done the unit test, and make sure that everything is fine, security features and stuff. So once you've tested everything, then that's when you can now merge to merge to that main branch now, main branch. So in this case, we are assuming that now the main branch is a master. The main branch is a master. So we have made the changes to the test. So if you want to now merge the changes, for example, if you have test, I'm using the simple example to demonstrate how branching works. So if you want to merge now the changes, you've tested everything is fine. You want to now merge to the main branch, you can do the git merge, and then the branch name. Then you can see now I have 2 codes, like the codes that were at the test, they are now here. So that's what I think we had discussed. I don't remember the other thing that we talked about the other time. So today I want us to focus mainly on the GitHub now, how to push now the codes on the GitHub. So basically we talked about the git init, git add, git commit, git branching. Now we want to talk about the repositories now on the local on the cloud on GitHub basically. So to create a new repository, if you've just created an account on GitHub, you can go to the repositories repository, then you can click on this new repository, or you can click on this here at the top, the plus here, and then the drop down will appear, and then I'll be able to create a new repository. So you go to the repositories tab, then you can either click here or click on the plus. So I'm going to create here a repository. For example, I can call it test. I don't know if it's available here. So test repository, it's available here. And let me use it on private. Remember, if you want this code to be open source, such that when people just visit your GitHub account, they can see, you'll make it public. So I know you've ever come across the open source repository where you can just clone those repository and stuff like that. But if you do not intend to make code repository, especially if you are working, if you have a client project, you are working for a client, unless they give you a permission to like expose or maybe to make it public, that's when you can make it public. So don't ever try to make the company's code open source unless they have given you the permission. You know, they have given you the permission, because sometimes you might expose sensitive data and it won't be good with you. So that's how you create a repository. You can add in the description if you wish to, and then select the publicity, like for example, if you want to make it public or a private. And then if you want to have the README file, so this one is very important sometimes when you want to do the documentation about your code. But we'll talk about the markdown commands after we are done with the Git and GitHub. I'll talk about the markdown commands later. So at the moment, I'm not going to go into this. Also, you could use, for example, to add in the git ignore. We are going to talk about the git ignore also later. Git ignore, let me not do it now. And then if you want to add in the license for the code you have, you can do the same here. So at the moment, I've just created here a repository name, and you can see it's available. When it says it's available, which means that no one else is using that name. Not anyone else, but within your account, there's no similar repository that resembles the name that we've written here. When it tells you the test is available. When it tells you that it is not available, it is unavailable, it means that you have a similar name for a repository. So when it gives you available and it's green, just know that you are good to go. And then what you do is just click on create repository. Yeah, create now repository. So what you do after you've created the repository, you can see now at the moment it's very empty. It's empty. So we need to add in now this repository so that we may be able now. We need to add in now this repository which is on GitHub now to the computer, so such that when we make changes on our computer, we may be able to directly push the code here. So the first thing you need to make sure is to have like a GitHub linked to your VS Code. You need to have, first of all, GitHub, like it has the permissions to access your GitHub account. So for me, I decided to click on this account. And then on you, I think if there's no option, for example, to sign in, it will provide like a several options. For example, if you want to sign in with Microsoft, because I think VS Code is a Microsoft software. So it will have the Microsoft, login with Microsoft, and also another option, login with Google, or login with GitHub. So make sure that you sign in with the GitHub, such that you will have easy or maybe a humble time to authorize now Git to access now our repositories. So assuming you have done that, so the next thing is to copy now this link here to your repository. So this is the link to your repository. Remember, at the moment it's private. It is private, so no one else will be able to see it. So you are the only one who can see it. So this is the repository data. We want to add it now to the to the local environment. Remember, at the moment you cannot push it here unless you add this repository on our local environment, and you can only do that if you have permission to, if you have access to this repository. So I've copied this repository, or maybe the link to my repository. So what you want to do next is to go to the VS Code. Let me clear. So here, because we've used like a git add to add now, a git add, then a period to add in the files now on the local environment. But now, because now we want to add in now that repository, we are going to use git remote, and then add. So we are not going to say git add directly. We are going to say git remote add. Then you specify origin. Then you can specify the directory, or maybe the the endpoint, or maybe the link to your repository. So in this case, we have done what we have added now the remote the cloud repository. Now it's now available now on the local computer. So the first thing that we need to do is to create the main branch. To create now the main branch, such that so we need to have like the main branch, so that we may also create other branches, and then I'll be able to to operate under the branches, and then we have a centralized, or maybe you have the main branch where we can push our code. So how do you create now the main branch here? So you can just say git branch. You know how to create the branches. So git a branch, git branch. And then if you want to specify the branch to be the main branch, you're going to use capital M to show that this one is going to be your main branch. Then, for example, you say main. Mostly, they usually say use main. So this way is going to create the main branch, and at the same time, it's going to switch at it. So now this one is going to be considered as our main branch. Remember, every file now here it is struct. It is struct. So we have added what? We have added now the branch that was there. We have added, not the branch actually, we have added that repository which we created on the GitHub. We have added to this one. Then we have also created now the main branch here, the main branch. So now we are able to push now the code. Remember, you can only do that if you give VS Code permission to access now your GitHub repositories. So GitHub account. So what you do next now is to, because we have add now the local codes, it is tracked. Let's try again. So when you say git, okay, let's do git status. Git status, I think status, git status. Then you can see nothing to commit everything. So let's try to modify again, perhaps. Let me use a different word and this one on the main. Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, let me just duplicate, and then I'm going to do git add. So now let's try to add now the changes, because we've made the changes. So git add, then a period. So now this file is now tracked. These changes are tracked now, and then now and git commit, and then a commit message, and then a message could be, for example, added another hello. Okay, let me say how many hello. Added another. Added 5 hello. Actually, you can use any other. I don't have a proper need to use here, but this I'm using this one to track those changes here, just for the interest of demonstrate. And then now the next thing, let me clear. Let me clear first to have a clean workspace. So once you've done that, you can push now the code to your account. You can now push now the code to your this remote repository, because it's now linked. It's now linked. But now the thing that you want to do is to set the upstream such that in future you don't have to do the, for example, git push, then I specify the origin. Mainly you'll have to do this git push, and then origin, for example, main. Then I'm going to push to that repository. So when you go there, you're going to see the code. You can see the code is here. Added 5 here, 5 hello. It's now here. It's now pushed here. But so, for example, in future I want to do the git push, I won't be able to do that. Like, for example, when I just say git push, you can see I'm getting now this error here that git push. I don't have the branch which is set to be as an upstream. So basically, when you set up branches upstream, it means that it's going to track that branch such that in the future you don't have to say, for example, git push and then specify origin and then branch name and stuff like that. So to set now the upstream, so let me clear. So to set now the upstream, like to save that branch, you're going to say git push, then u for upstream hyphen u, or you can just type the full name upstream, but let me use u, and then I specify origin, for example, main. So in this case, we have done what? We are pushing now to now we have done what we have pushed, and then at the same time we have set the upstream. So now when we make changes here, okay, let me delete here and then perhaps let me use H3, and then now this is it's my first code. Okay, let me say git is nice. And git is nice. And then let me track the file. Git add git add, then a period to track all the files, and then a git push. Not to push actually. Once you track the file, you need to save git commit, and then for example, you add in the message. For example, okay, let me say it's comment. Okay, let me just add in any name, comments, and then sorry, what did I write? Git git commit git commit then a commit message, and then now I don't have to do, okay, let me clear first. Now I don't have to do like a git push upstream and stuff like that. I can just say git push, because we have saved that directory, we have saved that branch, so we can just say git push, and then it's going to push the codes without doing any change, without writing a lot of code. The thing is just to minimize like a lot of work on this stuff. That's why we are doing that. So now at the moment you can see, I can say when I do it, when I go there, I'll be able to see the changes there. Now let me, okay, first of all, before I proceed, is there a question, guys, on this one up to where we are now? Any question? Am I still in the meeting? So quiet.
Yes, you are.
All right. Is there a question, anyone? Or have you guys understood? Ama mwelewe kabisa. Am I too fast?
Hello guys, it's good to engage. If you haven't understood anything, you'll later share the video, but even if you have the video and it's still the same thing that you planned, bado kuna hiyo swali unataka kuuliza, but at that time utakuwa una watch video, so utapata gani kumuuliza. So this will be the great platform to ask the questions that you want.
Very correct. Yeah, so if you have any question, make sure that you ask. You can just comment anything. Remember, we need to be, usiogope mtu hapa. We are here to help you. We ourselves tuko mbaya. We are helping you, so you are the main subject hapa hivyo wa kunini. Ninafaa kuelewa sana. So, I believe there's no question if we still how people are quiet. So we have only one branch here. We only have one branch. So the first thing, the other thing that I wanted to tell you is about the git ignores. Like sometimes you have sensitive files. You have the sensitive files you don't want to expose, especially if you are on the backend. You are creating now the backend for your web application or a mobile application or anything. So in most cases, for example, if you have a file like, for example, a .env, where you can add in now your environment variables, instead of like exporting or adding the files on your code. Let's say you have this file, and then or any other file, perhaps any other file that has your sensitive data, you can say add add your credentials here. credentials here. So for example, if it's your environment variables or any other files, you don't want to track that file, you can always add in a file called git ignore at the root of your project or wherever. So here, you can add in a file called git ignore. It doesn't have to have any other name. At the start, it begins with a dot, then git ignore. Git ignite. I believe I've written the correct spelling. Git ignore, like that, just like that. And then, is it so? Git ignore, yeah. I think the spelling is fine. So then this file, now you can add in now the files that you want to write. And then guys, another way to create now the files to create files via the CLI is to use touch. For example, just say touch, attach, and then say dot git. Remember now this one is going to place it at this root directory. Git ignore. Git ignore, just like that. We're going to archive that files. And to create a directory, you are going to use the make directory command. Make this command. Then the folder name called for example test or something like that. It's going to create now the folder called test. So now on this git ignore, like if I want to exclude like some files not to be tracked, you can always add it here. You can always add it here. For example, the files that you don't want to track it. For example, you can say like for example on this one it is for example, let's say use dot env. We don't want to track that file, so we are going to specify dot env. So when we say git git what? Okay, let me also include the folder. So if I want to show that a file is a folder or maybe a directory is a folder on the git ignore, you're going to begin with either a forward slash, then I specify, for example, the folder name, test. Okay, or maybe you can just say test, then a forward slash at the end is going to be considered as a directory. So it's going to ignore all the files in that directory. So let's try to add in the git add. Let's say git add, then all git add all. So you can see this this dot env, and also the test, it doesn't have anything. You can see it's only adding this dot git ignore. Remember the git ignore itself is going to be tracked. It's going to be tracked, but now the file that you've added there to not to be tracked, it's not going to add. So you can see I don't have those A. So when I try to do git status, you can see only git ignore file here, which is tracked. So it's going to omit any file that you want to. And sometimes you might have like, for example, especially if you're pushing the code for in GitHub to make it an open source on the public account, or maybe you want to make a repository public. So you don't want to like expose your real credentials. For example, let's say it's a web application where, for example, it includes, for example, the sent email. For example, when someone submits a form, it should send them their email. So it means that you are going to configure your credentials there, including the email, then perhaps the app passwords, and many other things. Or maybe if it's the API in the Google, for example, for maps, or maybe the credentials to for what for the auth, the social authentication. If you want to like a login, for example, with Google or stuff like that, so you have those credentials. You don't want to expose it to people because they can use it, or perhaps some time to even hack your account. So you don't want to expose those sensitive data. You can always add those files on your environment variable, or maybe if it's your setting files, you make sure that it is ignored, such that when you push it, sometimes you might be in a hurry, and then I don't want to like specify an individual file, for example, git add, then a file name, and so forth. So this way, you can just list all the files that you want to ignore. Then when you do the git add, it's going to add all the files apart from the one that you've specified to be ignored. So in this case, when I say git what? Git should be a git add, then a commit message. Let me say, okay, third, a commit. Then it's going to be saved. And then now I can do what I can push. So I can say git push. Git push. Git push. Now, the thing here, we have pushed now. Let's try first of all to track. And I want to show you also the branch now on the production, like on the, so you can see now this file is added, but now the file that we said that are ignored, you can see now here on the git ignore, I have .env and also the test, but when I go to what? When I go, like it's tracking the file itself, git ignore, but now the files that were added, it's not tracking them. So this one will help you like avoid exposing your other stuff. So we have other things. You can as well add in, for example, if you have a folder, inside your root, for example, let's say we have a folder in this test, and then for example, let's say our main, for example, .log or something like that, or okay, or anything like for example, okay, for example, main dot that for Flutter, and then you can see sometimes you don't want to like to ignore all these files. You can just say, for example, if you want to only ignore a single file in this folder, you can only specify, for example, in this directory to show that this one is a folder, then the file name, for example, main.log. So this way, it's going to ignore only so you can see in fact here, it's not displaying this U. Let me remove and see. When I remove, you can see that U is disappearing. But now when I specify the file, unique file, remember when you say test, it's going to ignore the entire files or that folder and its content. But now if you specify the file, for example, main.log, it means that only the main.log on that folder is going to be affected. It's going to be affected. So guys, I don't want to go into details on that, but and that's how you can ignore specific files and that you don't want to include. So I want us to talk about the branch now on production. I want us to switch to the other branch. Let me switch to what? Let me switch to git branch. Okay, let me do git checkout. Remember, if I want to switch to branches, you can always use the git checkout. Then the branch name test. Now you can see on test, we no longer have these. We no longer have those files that we had added. We no longer have what the changes. First of all, let me revert to the main git checkout and then main. I want us to see the files which are here. You can see on this test, we no longer have the git ignore. Or like on the test branch, we don't have the git ignore. So I no longer have the git ignore. So if I want, for example, to switch to add in this code here, if I want to add in now the code to the test, I'll go to first of all the test. So first of all, let me clear. I'll switch to test, and then I can do the git merge. Remember we talked about that git merge, and then the branch name. For example, if it's main, then I'll be able to merge. Now you can see now in the test I have that git ignore. So I can now push, but now I cannot say, for example, git push. So git push. So when I say git push, it's going to I'm going to get the error here because the branch that I will set the upstream was the main. So now I'll get the error because this branch is not is not the main branch. So in this case, I'll have to, for example, if I want to push, I'll just say git push, and then origin, then for example, you specify test. Sorry, I read something else. So origin. Sometimes shortcut is long cut. I usually don't like repeating myself. Git push, and then origin test. So now when you go there, when you go here, then I refresh, you can see now. We can see now you have two branches. You have two branches, and then yeah, you can see now we have these branches. These are the branches now, and then for example, let's say we make a change to. Let's say we make a change to one of these files. For example, let's say on the index we add in, for example, what else should we add in here? For example, Git is nice, and then for example, I love coding. I love coding. So now when I say again git add, in fact, let me add in also another file here, for example, main.py. Let me add in the main.py. Now this one is on test. So git add, and then the git add, let me add in everything. Everything. So when I say git commit to test. Commit to test, and then git push, git push origin. You have to specify the origin because this one is not the one that we had set the upstream. So origin, and then test. So in this case, you can see here, here. So you can see now on this branch, Okay, let me go to the root. So we have like the one is the main is sorry, my internet is not that stable. Can you hear me now? And also see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So yeah, so I've just pushed the code now to this branch called the test. But now when I go to, okay, where was I? Hey, repositories, test repository. And then now you can see I no longer have what? I no longer have the file that we have added there for Python. So when I try to compare, first of all, before I do the pull request, when I go to where's the branches? Where's the branches? Oh, we have the branches here. So let me see. So we have done what? We have done the changes to your branches test. Let me see. So we have added what? We have added a file called main.py. Now this one is only reflected on this branch called test. The branch called test. This test branch. This is the test branch. You can see the branch. Not here. Basically, this is the branch that we have just created called the test branch. So it has Python, but now when you go to the other branch, main, when you go to the main branch, it doesn't have a Python file. So how do you merge it via the code? Remember, you can as well do it via this website, via this interface. But also to do it with the code, remember, you know how to do that command. Anyone who can remember how we can merge now the codes from the test now to the main? Anyone who can try? How can we merge?
Can I try?
Yes, yes, yes.
You use the git merge command.
Yes. So now I'm at this branch called the test. So first of all, clear. I'm at this branch called test. So how will I be able to merge it now to go to the main branch?
Git merge.
Git merge.
I'm just trying. Git merge. The name of the branch that you want to merge the file with.
Okay, great. So, first of all, before you merge, you need to first of all to be at that branch where you want to merge first. You know, at the moment we are at this test, when you try to merge, then it's going to affect all the changes that we have made to the test. So in this case, we have to go to the other branch, the main branch that we want to merge from. So I'm going to say git checkout. So this is the branch that I want to make changes to merge main. So this is the branch that do not have Python added. So we are going to this file. Then we are going to say git merge. So this is where now we add in the merge. We use the git merge, not on that file data, not on that branch that has changes. You go to your main branch. So when you go to the main branch, you say git merge. And that's very correct. First of all, congratulations for saying that, for helping us. So git merge, that's the command. And then you also specify the branch that you want to merge to this main. So it is test. When you say test, you can see now the file now it's added. So the thing here, you have first of all to be on that main branch. And then you now specify the branch that had the changes that you want to merge it now to your main branch. Then later you can do the git push. Git push, and then it's going to now push it to the main. So now when I refresh here, now I have Python. I have Python here. So any question up to that point, I want to talk about on how you can fork a repository as well, and also the pools and stuff like that. Any question about that, guys? Up to
Yeah,
that?
I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
So, for example, maybe sometime you're
Mm.
building maybe an app, and then you're using the API key. So how are you going to hide the API key? Because if you upload it on the internet, maybe GitHub will give you some warning that your API is public. So how do I make the API private, as in, and then I don't like lose my work? Like it's still uploading even when I'm using the API.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. So now we usually have the environment variables, and I don't know which language you do use, but assuming that you have Python, you're using Python, you can install on that. Yes, you
Let's
use
say I'm using JavaScript, for instance.
JavaScript, for example. So basically, in that case, you can create any file. I don't want to do a very complicated part that you'll not understand, but you can create any file. Okay, a file like, for example, .env. So a file .env, any file .env, or maybe you can create any module. It doesn't have to be .env, but you can just create that file, for example. Yes.
You can just give the example using the .env, because I tried and I was having an issue with it. So just explain to me using the .env.
The .env.
Yes.
So, but let me use .env for what? Okay, first of all, if you have to use Python, and there's this website called PyPy, where you can do it, where you can just download the package. It will come as a package, like for example, Django python.env. So you can install it in the event you are to use Python, but I know we are not all a Python developers. So I'm assuming that I have this code, for example, my credential, for example, secret key, secret key underscore key here, a secret key here, let me say my underscore secret underscore key. My secret underscore key. So in this case, you'll have to, the easiest way, remember I'm not going to direction because, for example, if it is Python, you'll have, for example, to import OS, then also to import to load now this environment for variable. But I'm just using it as a module. So if you want to use it just as a module, but to hit this part, because this one is included on the git ignore. So let's say you want to use this as secret key. Or you are on this Python, so you can import that file as a module. So you can say from what? The current directory. Remember, they are both in the same directory. They are same, like at this place, they are in the same directory. So you can simply say, for example, from git and git ignore, or you can just say from the current directory because they share the directory. Then from current directory, and then you say dot not .env. .env. Let me use as another file so that I may be able to explain, because when you use the .env, you need to specify now the languages that you're using. Let me assume that I have just a file called secret.py or a .js. So I'll specify from the current directory, and then I specify secret this is Python. Let me create main.js. main.js. So you can import that file as a package. So I can say from the current directory, then secret dot okay, just say secret, then import from the current directory secret, import the module name, like module name, like okay, we can just say, for example, let me just say import the module itself, secret import secret. Can I use Python to demonstrate? Python is easier for me. Let me just create. Let me just use Python. For example, main.py. Okay, secret. Okay, let me just say secret.py. And then let's say we have the secret data here. Okay, let me say my secret key. My secret key. How does spelling for secret? Is it secret like that?
Yeah.
It is like that. My secret
underscore
key. But doesn't matter. You write the correct name on production in case you want to do that. So, and then you add now the secret key. The secret key. So you will import it as a module. You will import this file as a module. Remember now it is at the should be under the Python. So let me just go to the Python now to this. It is now. Oh, I had this code already there. So it is secret now. Or if I want to use now this secret here, you're going to import it as a module. So I'm going to say import, and then I specify. Because we are at the same directory, we are going to use period. Then I say secret, the module itself, like this file that we want to use it as a module. So if I want to, for example, say my secret key, like let's say you want to use it somewhere like let's say my secret key. Let me just say my let's say this is the folder where you want to now to create the variable for your secret key. You can simply do it. You can simply copy the variable name. My secret key now to the Python now. You can just say, for example, my secret key, this here, here, my secret key, then you assign it to my secret. So you first of all specify the module, secret, sorry, secret. So this one is going to specify the module. It's going to specify the module, dot, now the secret key. So this one, you're using that variable. You can see now on your main file, you're not using now that code. You're using the secret key as a variable. We're importing that secret key as a module, but we are using now here is a variable. We are just using it as a variable. We're importing the module, then we are using the variable. So the main file that we are going to ignore, it's now at this. So this way now you can add now the code for your secret key. Secret key. You are going to add in now the secret key here, and then now to your project, you're going to to your main now project, you're going to just use it as a variable. You are importing now the modules, and I use it as the secret key. Let me see if I have an example here so that I can demonstrate well. Let me open a new window. Let me open any project in folder, desktop, set render system. So, like you can see in this case, this is you can say I have a .env file here. And I have the .env file here. So I have, for example, for the credentials, for example, for this web application. And I'm also exporting this credential, but I believe you guys, you're not that nini. So I have those credentials there. So in this environment variable. So if I want to use those credentials, for example, on the settings, I'll go to the project, then to the settings, and then now, for example, on this environment now, because I'm using now this OS like this environment variables from that PyPy as a package. So I imported now that .env, and then also this module, for example, to use it, like to load it. Remember on Python it's used like somehow different, but now you can say, for example, if I want to use it with the .env, remember .env now is more advanced compared to, for example, if you have to use it the modules directly. So on your environment variable, like for example, Python, it has this package called OS. Under it, we have the environment. And then, for example, if you want to get now the credentials, we are going to specify the credentials here. So for the allowed host, for example, if this allowed host was on a new package or maybe on a .env file. So I've just used this one so that in the event this one is not fetching, and this one is going to pick this one, but this one also could still work. Also on JavaScript, because I think I have React here. So on React, you can see I also have this .env, where I have, for example, the React app, Google client, and stuff like that, and also the React API. So I just created this .env. Remember, for React also it has its package, how you can install that package. Then to use it, for example, on your app.js. So you can see now here you're using it as a variable. You're using that client ID as a variable. You're not using the credential. So this file .env itself, the one that has credential, you're going to add it to the git ignore, such that when you push, it's going to ignore that file. But now here it's going to push this environment variable, because people will not know what kind of secret like the keys you have there. I don't know if you've understood that.
Yeah, I've understood that you create a file, then you put the key, and then you
Yes.
import. I mean, you export the file, and then in the file you're using it to import.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically that's how you. Yes.
and then after that, in the .env, you hide the file where you
Yes,
don't
yes.
want to.
Yeah, so in
Okay.
the front end now on that folder, you're going to add now the git ignore. In fact, I forgot. Oh, it's here. So in the git ignore, you are going to add now the .env, the .env file, or anything that you want to ignore on the git ignore, so that when you push, remember it is going to track this file git ignore itself, but now the files itself is not going to track those files.
Okay, I have understood. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other question? That was a good question. Thank you so much for that. Any other question, guys?
Hi.
Hi.
I just have one question.
Yes.
How do you handle a scenario where you need to merge multiple branches into one?
Multiple branches into one.
Yeah, into one.
So it means I haven't tried that, but for example, you can say, for example, git merge, and then you list all the branches. I'm not sure about that, but you can try. I think one way, the easiest way, or maybe the longest way, or the way that I know, is to go to your main branch, and then I say git branch, then I specify the branch. Then if I want to branch another one, then you are going to use the same git command, git branch, then I merge the other branch until you finish all the branches. I haven't tried, for example, to merge. Okay, let me try to see if I'll be able to. Let me try to. But I don't think it'll work, because you might have like the code, like for it to work well, you need to have like the changes which doesn't differ. Like for example, let's say on the branch. On the main branch, you have like some parts of the code. Then when you merge from another branch, it's going to update the codes from that branch. So if you introduce another branch, then it's going to update your main branch to use the code from that branch. So it means that it's going to override the code from the other branches. I think the best way is just to do it one by one, like a one branch by one, and then you pull, first of all, you pull the changes from like you add your, like for example, now your branch that you want to use, the new branch that you want to include, you'll have now to add in the changes first the main from the main branch to that branch, then add in the changes to that the changes in that branch, then merge again now to the main branch, because you'll have like the conflicts, like you'll have the utakuwa na nini, because you cannot push if nini iko ahead. If your main branch is ahead of the commits, like for example, it has more, or maybe it has a lot of changes compared to your branch, it won't work. So basically, I think that the ideal way, ama njia yenye mi wanga naijua, is either you merge one file. First of all, the file that you want to merge into, it should be ahead. Ile nini ndio inafaa ikuwe ahead, not the main branch. Main branch inafaa ikuwe penye ilikuwa, but now the file that I want to add now to the main should be the one that is ahead, so that you can merge now those changes. So you need to, first of all, I think you have to do one by one. I'm not sure about if you can do all of them at a go, but the way in Nigeria, you do it one by one, because you will need to update, first of all, the other branches, so that the main branch will not be ahead of your other branches, sub branches. So if you want to do the changes, let's say you have made the changes now from the test, it's now merged to the main branch. Now, if you want to include also another branch, it means that you are going to add in now the change now from the main branch, so that your current branch will be updated now with the codes that are on the main branch. And then you modify now your codes, and then push it again. You push again there, like you merge again now to your main branch from that branch that you have. Remember, you always have to use they update it now from the main branch. Otherwise, you will have the conflicts. I think there's also that part. I think we could discuss that as well. Like if you have like a conflicts on the branches. So I'm not sure about that. I can say that I'm not sure about if you can do all of them at a go. I'm not familiar about that yet. Am I anyone who has an idea? Peter, you have an idea about that? All right, so I don't know, sijui kama nimekusaidia na just jakusaidia. But what I know is mostly you'll have to use the updated, for example, on your main branch, you need to have it updated so that you can push now the changes from other branches. Otherwise, you might have the conflicts on branches, like when you want to push.
Okay. And the last one.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. The last one. Let's say during my development, like I'm working on a project.
Mm-hmm.
So how often should I merge changes from the main to my futures branch into the Git?
So basically, because now you want to set your main branch to be for clean codes or maybe the codes which are tested and that they are working robustly. So you can always push there once you've tested, like anytime you test, you feel like the codes are good, the codes are good. That's when now you can merge. Otherwise, you could do the commits. By there, you can do the commits on your branch. You do the commits. By there, you can do as many commits as you wish on your sub branch. And then once you feel like everything is fine, that's when now you can push it to the main branch. So basically, the idea of the main branch is like it stores the code which is tested and is working, very well. But because you might want to save the changes regularly, now on your branch, you'll be using the git commit to save now those changes so that you can track the changes on your branch. But now for your main branch, you only merge it once you've tested that everything is fine. So you can push there as often as you wish, as long as the code is tested and is working very well. It's working very well. And also, for example, if you're working with a team, you need to tell them you've made the changes so that they can always, for example, add in the changes to their code so that it can allow them to push. Remember, anytime you want to push a code, if you're interacting with other people, you need to first of all add in the changes that are there in the main branch by doing the git remote add. You add in those changes, and then you push it. Like if you want to now merge it to the main branch, you do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question, guys? By there, I like when people ask question. I know that following. Any question? And I know in most job interviews or maybe almost all jobs that you'll go to look for opportunities, you'll need to have these skills because on an organization will not be like working alone. So these skills is very important. That's why I encourage you guys to always ask questions. Yes. Hi.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes. Yes.
Like when you're making the commits,
Yes.
like
Yes.
how you make them professional, as in, because sometimes maybe you've coded well, but now committing the features, like, can you just give us hints, or maybe if you can give us some articles we can go and read to make better commits?
To make a better commit. Sometimes you want to make commits and you get some errors.
Like, for example,
Yes.
you are
Yes.
you're building maybe a project, maybe a website,
Mm-hmm.
and then you added a feature, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you want to display first 5 pages of a website.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, are you commenting it? Like, after you get added, like, how do I make good commits? Like, I don't know if you understand my question. Like,
Actually, so like provided you have the codes which were initially on the, like you are making the change which were initially in the main branch, you can always do the git commits, like irrespective of, like you don't have like a specific way or maybe for a professional or to do it professionally. Like the thing here is to keep, like to make as many commits as you can, because sometimes you might have a code which is working well, but you might forget and add in perhaps somewhere a comma or something like that. Then it's going to like affect the entire code. Let's say you wanted to like revert that state where it was working well, so you'll see that you'll find it difficult. So anytime you feel like you've progressed, you need to save that part, so that in case things happen, like ushaisikia mimi nasemanga ati for programmers, if it works don't touch it. So it should apply here, like ikianza tu kufanya hivi, just push it such that you can easily revert to back to that state. So you do the git commit, just a command git commit, and then the commit message.
Oh,
So there's not like a specific way on how you can, or maybe different ways, or for professionally or something like that. The command is just similar: git commit, and then a dash, and then your commit message. Commit message.
okay.
Yeah. So the thing here is you make sure that you don't change, first of all, you don't change the one that is live, or maybe the change from your main branch. Like at the moment when I try to make a change to my main branch here, like I want to code here, for example, I add in a file, it means that I'm going to, if I want to push, let me add in now this file here, readme file. Let me see, hello world. Hello world. So you can see now this main branch is affected. So now when I want to do a commit here, or maybe a push, git push, this is main branch, right? This is a main. So you can see now when I go to my main branch here. So for example, let me make a change somewhere, for example, on the main index. Index, and then for example, let me say git add. Git add all, then commit. So there's no nini. Okay, git commit. So it's just saying git commit. That's a command, say git commit, and then a commit message. For example, change, like you want to also make sure that your commit message is somehow descriptive. For example, you can say I have updated or added something, updated my index.html. Like you want to use something which is quite descriptive. So when you hit enter, and then at this, you can see it's going to save. It's going to save irrespective on how you do it. Remember, the command is just similar. It's just same git commit, and then at the message. There's no like a different way on how you can do the same. It's just single that way. But now you can see now at the moment, I cannot do it. I cannot say, because this file I had set the upstream, so I cannot say git push. Git push. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the error. I can say I get this error, and that by there, I think this is a good example to demonstrate that you need to have your branch to be updated with the code that are in the main, so that you can be able to push to track now the changes. You can see now it says, so you can see here it says updates were rejected because the tip of your current branch is behind, which means now the main branch, like the code there, like on the server on the cloud, it's ahead, and that this one it is behind. So always when you make changes, or maybe when you are collaborating with other peoples, you need to always, for example, someone has made a commit, you need to add in now those changes there to your remote, like to your what, to your local, so that you can now push it back. Otherwise, you'll have these errors. So you'll have to say, for example, git remote, git remote add, and then you specify origin, then you specify the branch, the repository link. endpoint. Sorry. So in this way, in this case, so here you have to first of all do a pull, git pull, to get now the changes here that are there. You need to pull now the changes which are at this main repository, so that you have those changes on your computer, and then you'll be able now to push it, because now this one shouldn't be ahead, like the one on the server. It shouldn't be ahead of the changes that we've made here on your code. But then I'm going to talk about the pull. I had forgot that command. I'm going to talk about the git pull in a few. So first of all, is there a question? Any other question before we proceed? Any question, guys? First of all, sija confirm huyo mwenye ameniuliza, umeelewa kweli? Have you understood or have I answered you?
Yes, you've answered my question.
Okay, great. Any other person who wants to ask? So, if there's no question, basically, I think some other things, I think we shall, like, for example, the git commands, I think we shall, like, markdown commands, we can do it on another time, because I see also time is fast moving. So if I want to do the git pull, like to get now the to fetch now the changes, to fetch the changes, you can always do the git pull. You can always use the git pull command. So basically, the git pull command is used, for example, to fetch and merge changes from a remote repository into your current repository. I think here I had already added the nini. Okay, let me say clear. So git pull, I had set the upstream, right? I think git pull. So this one is going to do it. It's going to this one is going to like fetch the changes which are done, which are on your code, and then it's going to do what? It's going to merge as well to your branches. Like it's going to like also merge to your branch. So it's going to fetch now the changes there, and then at the same time it's going to merge now the change. You can see now the file is here. The file now is here, the file that we had created. So it is here. So I have these changes here. So because now we have some new files, we need to do the commits here. Like you need to commit, because it's added. You can see it's telling you that this it's added. The file is added. So you can do it. You can always add in the git commit. So git do it git commit, because the file is now tracked, it's added. So you can say git commit and message added readme. Added readme. So I'll be able now to do it. Let's try to push git push. Git push. So you can see now I'm able to push it without any issue, without encountering any issue. So basically the main thing, or maybe the idea here is you need to have updated version of one that is in the local, or maybe the one that is at the GitHub, so that you may be able to push it back. You cannot push, for example, if you are the one that is at the cloud is ahead of your branch. Umeelewa kweli up to that?
Yeah, mimi nimeelewa.
Wonderful sana. Remember hapo nimetumia git pull because nilikuwa nimeset already the upstream. Nilikuwa nimeset the upstream to this main branch, but you always have to say, for example, git pull origin, then the branch name. But because for me, I had set the upstream to the main, I can always do it. I can always just push it, just say, for example, git pull or maybe git push and so forth. Remember the git pull command, the first thing is going to fetch now the changes which are at the cloud, and then at the same time it's going to merge it with the changes that you have on your branch on your local. I think let me just show you the fork and then we will end it because of time. So if you want to fork a repository, someone's repository, so that it can be yours, so that you can work on that repository, you can use fork. Actually, fork, a fork is just another word like to copy something. To copy something, like to copy this one, like for example, this one, this is my repository called from the name tag, and then the repository name. So I want to fork it to another repository, another account, like, but because I don't have another account, I think I have another organization, or maybe another what is it called, another organization that I created here, like I just created earlier for Eldohub. So I can just click on the fork. Remember, it should be that repository that you want to fork, and then you click on the fork. And then you have to select the owner, or if you are to use, for example, if you are to fork it from another person repository, you'll not have to select the owner because it will select by default. So because for me, this is the repository that it is currently running, name tag. So I can always, for example, like this Eldohub, I can just select it, then I can copy it. So when I copy this branch, when I fork it, so you can see now it's going to change to be where? Now it's going to be here. Let's give it some second. So you can see now it's now at this Eldohub. It's no longer a name tag. So we have copied the entire code from name tag test, and then at the main branch. Now it's now at this test. So let's say you want to contribute on a maybe on a software or something like that. So let's say we have this readme here. We want to update. Hello world. I love coding. I love coding. So when you do commit the change here, you do commit changes. It's now the changes have been made to this test. Been made now to this test. But when you go to, let me switch back to what, to the other account, which was Nemtic. Where can I find you can see, in fact, the number of repositories here it's only one. The other Nemtic, it had like several. It had several. So let me go here. So you can see here, I have changes to this Eldohub. Let me see if I can go back to name tag. Let me see. Let me switch to name tag. I don't know. And then to the branches. So you can see now when I go to the test at this name tag, like there's no change here. They like we only have one hello world. So let me switch again back to what? To the Eldohub thing, Eldohub here account. So okay, repository. Repository, then to the test. So you can see this one, there's the changes. So sometimes you might want to contribute, or maybe to add in now the changes that you've made, to contribute it now to your to the what, to, for example, you are collaborating with an organization, and then you've tested the code, you updated the code, and then you feel like this code can be useful to your project, or maybe can solve, for example, if it's an open source, and then you want to contribute to that software. Let's say it is pandas. Pandas is a data science Python package that deals on data manipulation. So let's say you want to update it, like you want to contribute to that package so that it can be much more powerful. So let's say you forked that to repository, and then you made the changes and it's working fine. Then I want to contribute there. You can always do the pull request. So in this case, you can click on this notification, then you can create a pull request. You can always create a pull request because you can see this one it is. This one we have added, for example, I love coding. Just a simple example to demonstrate. So in this case, you can create a pull request by just clicking on the pull request. And then, for example, you can add in a description about the changes there that you've made. Then once done, you can create here a pull request. For example, on that part of the description, perhaps you could say, for example, I have added this part and it's working fine, something like that. And then, so basically the team is going to review your changes. And then now, because I'm at the same account, remember I'm at the same account, I'm still the owner. So I have the privileges, for example, to accept and do other stuff because I'm the owner of the same code. Like I'm still logged in to the same account. But if you request a change, a pull request is going to notify that organization, or maybe that the owner of that repository is going to notify them, and then they'll be able to review your code and then see the comment that you had written, perhaps, and that if they feel like the code is good, not the code is fine. The code is fine, then they can merge now to the main code. So you can always close, or if you feel like the code is fine, you can review, for example, for example, if you had the comments and stuff like that, you have reviewed, everything is fine, then you can always approve. You can approve and then merge, then you can. So these steps where you have to confirm, for example, to choose the email address associated with these commits, and then you confirm, you merge. So now you can see now when I go to this name tag test, I have that another hello world. Any question guys up to that? I believe I'll have covered most part on Git and GitHub. So the rest is just for perhaps the markdown commands, of which I believe we can do it on another time because of time. So any question guys up to the Git flow? Any question?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, yes.
So when like you want to collaborate with another, maybe GitHub, you're the one who makes the pull request. Like you're the
Yes.
one who creates the. Let's say you're working on the same project, and you're the owner of the project. So if I want to like make any changes on your project, I have to create a pull request.
Yes, you have to do the pull request first. You create a pull request on your end. So you, the one that you want to contribute here, you create a pull request, and then so the team here will approve now the pull request if it aligns with what they wanted or something like that. So for example, if it's me, I'm the one who will approve it, and then I'll be able to merge it now with my main code.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I understood. And is there something like creating issue in the code?
Yeah. You can always do that. By the way, we have that part. In fact, we have a lot to do, but allow me just to do it perhaps on another time, for example, to create those issues and stuff like that. To also explain very well the features, branch, and many other things. By the way, I haven't talked about that. But because of time, allow me to talk about it another time.
No worries. But I understood.
Great.
Hi, Nema.
Hi.
Albert here.
Yes.
Maybe I can just give a highlight of what issues are. So
Yes.
Normally when you're using the Git workflow to manage a project, you have like one person who is in charge of the main branch somehow, and the main code. So that person will also be maybe in charge of assigning tasks. So, and those tasks, those are what we call issues. So maybe I want to start and say, I want Winnie to help me add the navigation page or the navigation to this website. So I'll create an issue for the navigation, and then on your end, that is when you'll create a branch, call it navigation by Winnie or something, and move ahead in that kind of manner.
Oh,
wonderful. That's very wonderful. Yeah, so Any other question perhaps you have? It doesn't have to be me to answer. Perhaps we have a team here. So you have a question and you have a question, guys. Anyone with a question can just ask. Or maybe generally, do you, like Albert or maybe Peter, you have anything perhaps you want to say or add or something like that? First of all, thank you so much for commenting on that. You have anything else perhaps you want to say or contribute?
Vitalis,
Yes?
there's a question. Vitalis?
Yes,
Ask
yes.
the question.
I just have one question. So, what should you do if you accidentally start a future in a wrong branch? So let's say you didn't want to do in that branch, but accidentally ulianza nini, then unaweza fanyaje?
So let's say like for example you are a different branch alafu umesha make some changes there and then you want to, for example, to go to your other branch and then continue to that state, like to that branch, right?
Yeah.
Like, so in that case, once you do the git ukifanyanga git commit, you can always track the changes. You can always revert back to the changes that you had already said. Let's say you had made changes currently, and then you had made like at the initial state of that branch it was differently. So you can always revert back. By that part I should also touch on perhaps, but next time. You can always revert back to the initial state by reverting to their other commits, and then it will just ignore the current change, like the change that you had made, and then I'll be able to go to the other branch and then do the same thing. So you can always, when you do commits, you can always. That's why I say that's very important when you are dealing with Git to make regular commits, such that in the event your code crashes, you can always revert to a state or maybe to a commit which was working fine. So in this case, let's say you are doing some changes on a wrong branch, you can always revert back to the other commit which was fine, like at the initial state of that branch, then continue to or switch to the branch that I wanted to make the changes, and then do the same. But still, you can always merge the changes. You can always merge the changes, but so there are several ways on how you can approach that. But I think we'll talk about that perhaps on our next meetup. How to revert to changes and stuff like that. Or someone, perhaps Albert, you want to add in on that?
No, I think you've answered perfectly. The other situation could be maybe you've not committed those changes that you've been working on the wrong branch. So you can easily just switch to the branch that you want to commit those changes to, and the code that you've added, that work that is in the working directory will all accompany you to that branch that you're shifting to without any problems. So as long as you're working, you've not committed, you can always switch the branches and you'll go the working directory. If you've committed, then that is when you go the Nehemiah's explanation way.
Yeah, so allow me to end it there unless guys you have a question, and just return it back to the team.
All right, thank you, Nehemiah, for this session. Our task, everyone, our tasks will be to put all our projects on GitHub, document them properly, use the README Markdown file. README is not complicated, and Nehemiah can confirm that it's a very, very straightforward programming language somehow, or Markdown that is. So just have a very, very brief description of your project on the readme.md file. That way, when someone visits your GitHub projects, they can easily know what this code is all about. So just have the title and the description. If you can put a screenshot for the user interface, well and good, things like those. So I'm expecting to see GitHub profile, especially those in my class. I want to see all your GitHub profiles. Share those links on our WhatsApp groups so that we can help one another, check out our projects, contribute to how we can improve our code and continue learning. So I believe there is no other question. Thank you, Nehemiah, once more for facilitating the session. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and let's meet in the next one. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.